for a second, I count off 1001 and I hand it back to them. It is funny,
Yeah.
but it tries to teach yourselves and people to pay a little more descriptive in the words and the choices. Hold it for a moment. I'll be back in a second. Time's up. I'm here. It's little things, but I believe, okay, you can get to extreme, I know that, but I believe in the literal use of the verbiage. If you do it, you'll do that in your professional lives, in your personal lives, and it will pay off. People notice the language you use. People notice the words you use. You don't do it, but I will guarantee the vast majority of people you deal with, Billy's in finance and consulting and deals with many different people. I'm quite sure he's very careful in how he communicates the message to the people so they all understand what he is saying to them, or ask words to clarify it. One big thing overall, we do a very, very good job of giving speeches. We've gotten much better. We do a good job of feedback and evaluations and how we're doing. That's the first part of the message that we read in Toastmasters, communication. The second part says, and leadership. And leadership is something we need to start focusing on from my perspective. A thing like, in a second, words, introduction of the Toastmaster of the evening, calling out grace. They come up, they're ready to go. If you watch places and organizations, whether you go to a seminar, something on television, you find the big buildup. You know who's coming, and the name is at the end, and the crowd goes wild, and the people applaud, and everything else. Your next three words are lost. So when you introduce the person and you bring them up, that's the introduction. Now you want to talk about them. It's flip it around. You've got it all there, but it's you present it, flip it the other direction. You're saving the best for last, and the best is the person's name. Come up with 3 to 5 sentences to introduce the person. If you're the Toastmaster, send out an email, a text, whatever way to reach them. Please write a short introduction for yourself and your speech. They send it to you, you look at it, you have a chance to read it. You're not just fumbling over and saying, my God, could they find a smaller printer to print this on? So it's those little behind the scenes that make you look so outstanding in what's happening as you're running the meeting, what's going on. Table topics, interesting choice, nice handling of good humor. Tommy, you got your table topics and you're so fascinated by the question. You spent most of the time talking to that question right there and occasionally glancing up and noticing we're still here. And then you went back and you looked. That was the whole first half of your response was the question, a glance. The question, a glance. Finally, you started to relax and your natural gestures came back, your relaxation of how you present things. What saves you is you have a nice, deep, rich voice. So whether you're down or up, we could all hear you loud and clearly. But you don't need to hand read, and you know that better than I do. Ellie has a good voice. She talks well, but she's mainly focused to this side of the room. I don't know if it's the charming gentleman with the mustache. But when you weren't looking there, you were doing the same thing. You were focused on the question. Most of us can read it once or twice, and then we don't have to turn around and keep remembering it. Struggling with the answer is more what we're focused on. Hong, you just like to ignore everybody. Billy's back there and he's got the timing. You just stared straight ahead with your eyes. Rarely did they deviate. Because I'm down there too. I know you're looking. I have no doubt. Your arms work beautifully here and back and here. Understand, they're loose. They're not attached. They can be moved independently. But that was the depth. The communication was good. The answers were good from everybody. But it's the little tiny things that make a bit of difference. Billy has a great smile. He comes up there. He came up with a great idea with the robbery, and I just got him laughing and going. And at the end, he had the nerve to thank us for what he gave a great presentation. As you well know, you don't thank us. We're thanking you. And it was a great response in how you did it. Kira, your message Your decision when you stood back here, love or lottery, you gave it deep thought. But if there was any doubt whether you picked love over lottery, I'm not as good as you are. But that left stand sexy look for the whole time. The hand got here, you had that female wow. And that's how you answered it for the whole time. You never moved a muscle after that. You might want to consider adding a little more to embellish the style of where you go with it. The concept and the idea of giving out a basket with numbers is a good approach. It has a major risk associated with it. You give it to everybody. What happens if the first 4 speakers are your Toastmaster, your first speaker, your second speaker, your third speaker? You're only going to hear from those people all night long. If you give out the numbers, you have to either tell the speakers they cannot take a number, so you make sure it gets spread around the room. You got very fortunate because you didn't hit any speaker who came up. But that's a risk. You have to think about whatever you're doing. You want to avoid major speakers of the evening, which are the speakers at the table topics. They have the most to say. You want to focus on the ones who don't have a key role. So when we all go home, we can say everybody spoke and spent a little time speaking. That's one of the things behind the scenes on it. That's one of the things of running the table topics program and thinking beyond just coming up with questions. We're focused on the speaking. We're focused on just running the table topics. We're focused on just being the evaluator. But it takes more to run a meeting. Think of the meetings you go. Think of the meetings you have at work. Think of the organizations you've been to. You don't really spend the time. The Rose Bowl, I live not too far from it, is where the firemen spent. Drove by it. Food trucks, catering business to feed them. Tents designed for this purpose for the firefighters to sleep in. Toilets, rest areas, just for them. All of the things we never give a thought to that goes on behind the scenes that supports major activities and disasters. This is the same concept of idea behind a meeting. There's many roles that have to be played. The Toastmaster has to make sure that all of the participants are going to be there and are ready and how to introduce them. Table topics has to come up with the ideas, suggestions to get to people think for 2 minutes and respond to some concept or idea and make sure that other things don't happen. So it's getting to the organization side of being a Toastmaster and the communication side of what's happening. 2 things interesting. Gabby got up, gave her evaluation, very, very good, but the whole time, she's a long-term Toastmaster, she hasn't been here a while, it's leaning down here just like this to attack the group, but focused. Taffy gets up, moves around a lot, gives nice gestures, nice vocal variety in what's happening and what's going on to the whole aspect for it. Jim comes along and gives a very nice presentation. 2 major things. You only focused on the speaker. It's a one-on-one interaction. None of us existed. You never glanced your eyeball off the path. Yes, you're evaluating. No argument. Yes, that is the focus. But sometimes you want to look around. The other thing is we can't see your facial expressions and the goodness about you because for some reason you want to hide it tonight by keeping your hat on indoors. So I would strongly suggest, by perspective, that you take the hat off when you come inside the room so you get to see all of you and all the effort you put into your evaluation, not just the good words and the good feedback that you provided them to, but also they can see your facial expressions and how you go. Because that's all part of speaking, is being able to see what you do and how you communicate it, where it goes. A lot of different perspectives, a lot of things. But I think, like I said earlier, we have done a very good job of focusing on speaking, and that's what we all came when Owen always asked us, why are you here? I came because my boss sent me. Well, I ended up being a president of our club 1 year after being in the club for a number of years, coming in not sure about it. People have come because a friend has dragged them in. Joy's brought in a number of people, Owen's brought some people, and other members have too, so they come, some don't, some stay. One comes, another family member comes. So you end up with this idea. But now it's time in some respects to say, because I don't want you to get to the level that says, hey, I'm getting comfortable with this thing, I give good speeches, it's been nice, I got what I came for. There's this other aspect to it, to run a meeting. And the other thing tonight, it's interesting, I'm not sure who at times running the meeting. We get to table topics, and I've got 4 people telling table topics master drowning around about vote counting and what we want to do. I make a gesture and a timer report, and I'm quickly told, hey, you don't timer, we're not doing it. Partly like a speech, we don't interrupt the people. You somewhat have to let the Toastmaster meeting, table topics, and evaluator sink or swim up here. This is where we learn and make mistakes in a comfortable environment that we feel okay to be corrected in. Out there, it's tough. You won't get the friendly feedback. You might, but not too often. But if you're in charge of running it for the Toastmaster evening, look at the agenda. Owen added a good thing to the agenda this week. At the top, it says the next meeting date. That was a really good, positive add. The other thing I notice is we forget, we give out a ballot, but we forget there's a timer and a ballot. So maybe I was thinking, parenthetically under where it says table topics, we might insert and put in something like timer report and vote. At the bottom of the 3 evaluators, timer report and vote, to help remind people that function needs to be fulfilled and done. But it's your responsibility. Sometimes you have to bite your tongue, no matter how much you want to. I do a lot of that. And want to say something. Let the person go up there. The table topics person can see that clock. If I can read it, anybody can read it. I'll tell you, my vision is not super great. You can look at that and you know how many more questions I can ask. You don't have to ask the president. You don't have to ask the Toastmaster of the evening. This is your part of the meeting. From the time they say, it's my pleasure to introduce the table topics master, until you call for the vote of the table topics people, that's all your meeting. You are 100% responsible to run it, to do it in a timely fashion. If you overrun it, the other people suffer. But you'll hear about it. I belong to outside organizations like Tommy does. I'm quite sure Taffy has. Owen's probably been to them also. And that's the meeting. They don't get up in the middle and say, oh, you can't do 3 more announcements for the group because we got to move on and our speaker's sitting up there at the head table. The guy who's the president or the woman who's the president, it's a responsibility to keep it moving along. Not the audience. The audience knows what's wrong, let me tell you. But that's part of learning here. So at times, although we want to tell the person what they should be doing, tonight, it doesn't seem like it, but this is Helen's first time being Toastmaster of the evening. There wasn't the fear, the trepidation that always seems to come up with people and who's going on. There wasn't the other activities of it. And I think most people, if I didn't comment, wouldn't realize this is the first time Helen has done it. And I think it was overall a very, very good job, and congratulations. Thank you for volunteering to be it. Very, very much.